Hello, welcome to Tuesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Cohen. Tonight it's an all-star affair. I'm joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Good. As Rebel said in the comments the other night, I'm now sitting at the end of President Putin's meeting table, aren't I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, all good.
We're also joined by
Loads going on.
Plenty going on. We'll come to that in a wee minute, but we're joined by Scott McDermott as well.
Daniel, you all right?
How's it going?
Aye, good, mate. Aye, loving the January transfer window as usual. It's great.
Absolutely. And the one and only Michael Gannon. Mick, how are you?
I'm too old, too skint, too starving, too cold, too tired. Where do you want to go? Apart from that, I'm tickety boo.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear.
January. It's just January.
No. Well, as Keith mentioned there's tons for us to talk about tonight. A packed show. A little bit later on, we'll talk about Rangers and their move for Andreas Skov Olsen, which has been accelerating. But I think before we do that, I think the best place for us to start is Celtic. Keith, given that Mick was with Martin O'Neill earlier on today.
Yeah. I saw some of that press conference. Isn't it, Mick, strange that the very same noises that were coming out the mouth of Brendan Rodgers are now coming out the mouth of Martin O'Neill, especially given the way that Brendan Rodgers was eviscerated and bounced out the back door of the place because of it. I don't know. I said to Daniel last night, Michael, that there is still almost 3 full weeks of the transfer window remaining. That's plenty of time for Celtic to do business. I said in the summer, and so I'm walking back from that because I remember quite clearly going into the last couple of weeks of the summer window. I think I repeatedly stated Celtic would spend significant sums in that transfer window and everybody should sort of calm down. So I'm not going to put myself in that same box. I'm not going to Tom McKean myself with that. But what you now look at it and you think, do you know what? Even if there is a bit of movement and there is activity and there are another couple of bodies come in, actually Celtic have I think done Martin O'Neill a bad turn simply by the fact that here we are halfway through the month, more or less, and they've not helped him out. And this is a guy who, at 73 years of age, has come back in, is prepared to do his duty in the best interest of a football club. I think he's been let down. And I look with one eye on January 25 in that game at Tynecastle. I find it incredible that Celtic haven't made some serious moves by now to give him a bit of help.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think it's not just Martin O'Neill being let down. I think, and listen, a lot of people look at Celtic supporters and go, they're entitled. They won all these titles. Why are they moaning and all that stuff? Have a bad season. But I think that they're not getting value for their own money that they're spending. The club, they're the only team, a club that is an analog club in a digital age. Quite what they've been doing for the last 12 months in the terms of recruitment is now as anyone's guess, because you would have thought after the window they had in August that there would be at least 3 or 4 players lined up, having been wined and dined and taken to golf courses and bought nice dinners and all that, ready to go in the door early doors. Yeah. Quite clearly not the case now, January the 13th, and there's still no striker. It's 350 odd days since Kyogo left Celtic, and there's still not a recognised striker in the door. They brought in, and a day after the window last year, Iniacho, a barely fit Iniacho who's been barely fit, surprise, surprise. A kid from an academy in Callum Osmond, and a boy from Japan, Shin Yamada, who looks like someone's brought the pal to 5-a-sides every time he's played for Celtic. This is what they've done in 12 months. People are getting paid to do these jobs. Not, I mean, Tisdale obviously been emptied. Quite how it lasted this long, if this is the work that's been done. Quite clearly, everything that's been done last month, 12 months has been in the bin. Instead of starting from scratch, back to having to rely on agents and friends to bail them out. You talk about spending money, I'm not entirely sure they will be spending big money because they've not got a manager that's going to be in place beyond the summer.
Yeah, well, even just get loan deals done, Mick. Do you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. They're now looking for loan deals. But listen, what Celtic are, listen, everyone's getting all upset and worked up. Celtic fans are getting worked up about the title race. I think what we're seeing now is actually Celtic is beyond the title race. I mean, Celtic might blunder their way to a title because Martin O'Neill can do that, but Celtic are now falling so far behind Rangers and Hearts in terms of recruitment and structure that they've now pretty much ended their own spell of dominance. The days of Celtic running 4 or 5 year titles in a row are done now because Rangers have got themselves the house in order. All right, they've had a false start in the summer, but they've now got the house in order. They're investing money. They spent 40 million quid and counting since the summer. Celtic spent 13 million quid and can't even get a deal over the line. They're getting left behind. The money they had built up as reserves now going to have to be money they need to dip into to fix some of the messes they've created. They got no recruitment strategy of note, no recruitment setup of note, so that they might get by because of a manager this year and because of some experienced players. But they're actually now at the point they're facing a massive rebuild in the summer. And what that should be done now for the summer for potential qualifiers is not getting done because they're having to try and run around and scramble loan deals. I mean, what a state Celtic got himself into. It's actually
the biggest problem for that one, Mike, is that would require, in order for Celtic to I think what Rangers have done is Andrew Kavanagh, the takeover, that previous board was incapable of driving Rangers forward, right? They were a busted flush. Rangers required fundamental structural change. When Andrew Kavanagh came in, he effectively fixed the foundations. And Rangers now need to get the details right. And Andrew Kavanagh has made some mistakes along the way, but gradually he will get there. But he's fixed the fundamental issues that needed to be fixed. Celtic's fundamental issues remain unaddressed. It would require Dermot Desmond either to sell up, which he's got no intention of doing by all accounts, or for him to have a moment of clarity and want to recalibrate the whole thing. And there's no sign of that happening either. So while Rangers have fixed the foundations and are building from the ground up, Celtic are coming, they're collapsing in on themselves from the top down. And at one point, and probably at some point really soon, they're going to meet in the middle, the middle. And that, I think you're absolutely right, Michael. I think that's now, whatever happens this season, whatever miracles Martin O'Neill manages to pull off between now and the end of this season, it's the bigger picture that I think is really concerning, and why, you're right. I think there have been moments for Celtic fans, because they've spent the last couple of decades just, picking up one trophy after the next. I think there has been moments where they probably have been a little bit entitled when somebody else picks one up, that it creates, all hell breaks loose. I think I can understand the Celtic perspective on this one. They're seeing the bigger picture here. And they're seeing exactly what you're talking about. Even if Martin O'Neill manages to get to the end of the season and pick up a league and pick up a Scottish Cup into the bargain, it doesn't fix the big issues. And these issues are being addressed and have been addressed at Tynecastle and at Ibrox.
Listen, Celtic fans are sitting wearing the Told You So t-shirts right now because, people kind of almost scoffed at the moans at the start and during the summer. And it's always because, it'll be all right in the night. Celtic always get guys in late and all that stuff. But they got them in too late. They've been signed to 2 or 3 players after they're out of Europe. Not good enough, and this has been happening over a period of time. So it's been a slow moving kind of car crash to get to this point. And people like Brendan Rodgers was flagging up last spring, saying that this Celtic squad is the dying embers of Ange Postecoglou's team. The recruitment's been appalling since he left. So it's the dying embers of a team that probably should have been emptied out last summer. And Rodgers said this last March, April. And they lost at St Johnstone. Said this is probably a team that needs massive changes to get things freshened up, and people moved on, but it never happened. They get ignored, and then we know what happened after that. But this is the kind of, listen, Celtic upset about the press writing nasty things about the recruitment. Guys like Sutty pointing out from July, this is not good enough, and all of a sudden it's chickens won't come home to roost. And like you say, Martin O'Neill might help this team blunder its way over the line, but it'll be camouflage, total camouflage. And listen, speaking of that, we spoke to, obviously, Martin today was batting questions about transfers, and he was doing his best. He's basically saying that, like you say, every manager said for the last 3 or 4 windows. But we spoke to him separately as well as we do the kind of the print stuff. And I'm telling you, I'm not being a big tease, right? But at 10:30 tonight, get onto their website and read what Martin O'Neill's told us.
Yeah,
and he's not filling an MD. He's not blasting anyone in tabloid terms. It's just the questions and the answers are so illuminating about how Celtic operate. behind the scenes.
Well, he did say in the broadcast, Mick, that he's discarded some of the guys that obviously that were on Paul Tisdale, Wilfred Nossy's shorting list, and he's just went like and put big red lines through.
Yeah, but I genuinely think, Keith, this stuff in tonight's and in tomorrow's paper, people will read that a lot more. Yeah, people are going to read this. It's more meat on the bone. People read this and go, WTF?
Aye, disbelief.
Genuinely, they are. I'm not. You're like, how has Celtic managed to get themselves into this situation? But it's been over the course for years. Celtic's recruitment over years. I know that the Dermot Desmond, the structure's absolutely fine and all that stuff, but Celtic relied on big managers delivering through their own contacts. Well, it was Brendan Rodgers' first time round, had a agency he was very close with, and he got some cracking players, Scott Sinclairs and all that stuff. I suppose Postecoglou took control of it. He had his own guys that he used. He got in a whack of players that have lasted up to this point in time. Brendan trying it again last time round. So where is the long strategy, the kind of the data-driven and all this? We hear all the buzzwords and all that stuff and world-class performance and all that. Where is it? Where is it?
Mac, do you think when Brendan Rodgers left, then the people at Celtic, I mean, it feels like they almost wrote off this season? Because I mean, how's this been allowed to happen? I mean, the stuff that you're talking about in terms of planning a few windows in advance, I mean, that's basic recruitment strategy. I mean, that's not anything complicated. So, is it arrogance? Is it complacency? Is it incompetence? I mean, how has it been allowed to happen in that short space of time that it feels like this season as a whole is just between Rodgers going and everything that followed, the Desmond statement, the appointment of Nonce, Tisdale been in the building, been in charge of recruitment, and now this. You see a guy like Martin O'Neill effectively saying in his press conference today, "Well, I'm just getting players handed to me, and I need to decide on a whim whether they're good enough." I mean,
to hear that in 2026, you go, well, sorry, what? I mean, Hearts are away scouring the Latvian Sunday morning church league and getting players. I mean,
getting centre forwards that can score 30 goals a season.
Aye. I mean, clubs in England, I've said it before, clubs in England are finding some 13-year-old kid in Ethiopia doing 4 keepy-uppies, give him a 5-year contract. I mean, Celtic are, they've totally relied on blockbuster managers who know what they're doing. Guys like Ange and Brendan who get contacts throughout the game and know a player. And it's got them by. It has got them by. I say this is now the kind of the end of the Ange cycle team. Guys who should have been sold before now. Hatates, Madas, they all should have been kind of. Mikiogo was eventually sold, probably 6 months too late. That you have to be able to replenish that. And then if you take out the big blockbuster manager who can get these players, you're going to have a problem. Or you don't give the blockbuster manager the players that he actually wants. And you manage to upset him. I mean, you've got an elite manager who's getting you over the line. I mean, the last 2 seasons Celtic over the line been last year they won by a while. The year before, he managed to turn it around and get over the line. And you can point to Rangers' mistakes, but at times Rangers were very good. Under Clement had a great run, under Beale had a great run. There have been times when they've been decent, but Celtic's relentless pursuit has worn them down and made them trip up. That's because they've got elite managers in charge. This is not because he's sitting on top of this wonderful structure. It's because he's leading the structure. Take that away, upset him, and it all crumbles. And at the moment, Martin O'Neill's trying to come in and pick up the pieces. He's another elite manager, but he's 6 years out of the game, and he hasn't got the contacts and resources that he had 15, 20 years ago. When he can go and get a John Carew at Aston Villa, or go and get a Sutty at Celtic. Just the game's changed. Or go and get Craig Bellamy. I mean, Craig Bellamy was a loan signing for Celtic, 2005 under O'Neill. Did really well, but then got injured and they missed out in the league that year, didn't they? But that kind of level of player, so he could do that, but not now. The world's changed. That's what I'm saying. It's like, and you can't just start throwing around these £2 million signings on agents saying so and hoping to turn it for the best. Because eventually that catches up with you, and it's catching up with Celtic in big time. It's not just biting the backside; it's gnawing at the bone through the flesh.
Matt, what was the update, if any, on the injury situation? Because obviously it looked as if Trusty might have pulled up at the end of the game at the weekend.
No, Trusty's okay. But obviously, the Stephen. I mean, Celtic. The second biggest sign of the window has been bringing back Stephen Welsh.
Getting Stephen Welsh to replace Stephen Welsh.
Yeah, but again, Celtic have been trying to get a centre half and failed so far. And I think that Welsh is there as cover. It's a shame for Stephen Welsh because he's playing brilliantly for Motherwell. Now he's going back sitting the bench for Celtic.
Yeah.
Unless they can get some business done in the next 2 or 3 weeks, they might go back again. Either that, I know Aberdeen have been linked with him as well. Big news. I mean, the big one was Jota. I mean, I'll be saying to you guys in this show for a while that I don't think we'll see Jota this season, and Martin confirmed that today. He's not going back till next season. So that's not unexpected.
That's one to keep an eye on, by the way. Like, that's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I've been saying
Won't
that.
see much more than that at this point, but something's just not quite right here.
Well, again, not to be I'm a big tease tonight, but if there's more meat in that bone as well, and in tomorrow's paper as well. We kind of dug into that a bit more with Martin on our embargoed section. So that's interesting. I'll keep that on my cuff just now. But either way, you're not wasting this season, which is another blow. I think some fans have got in the head that we'll be back in February, March. But it was never going to be the case, I don't think. He's had a few wee bumps in the road as well in his rehab. So the next season, and then after that, who knows what kind of Jota's going to come back next season. So I don't think you can even plan around having Jota from 2021 back in 2026, 27, because it's not going to be the same player after being sitting out for 18 months and then injured for another 12, 13, 14 months. So that's a big blow from a guy who cost a lot of money, obviously. But they sold for a lot of money, so I guess you can balance that checkbook, I suppose. But yeah, the rest of them, I think Iñiacho was fairly close, maybe the early next month. Sarachi just behind them. Arthur Johnson not till March probably. So there's not a lot of cheer for Celtic in terms of injuries. It's as you can aware. And still the striker search goes on.
Just before we let you go, Mick, we've got plenty of comments coming in on this, and if you're watching at home and you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so. DD says if Martin O'Neill wins the title, it'll be the greatest domestic achievement in Scottish history and he deserves a statue. Woos says the board's an absolute joke. We will not win a title race if we don't get players in. Shambles. Paul Brady says Martin O'Neill's bailed out this board twice this season. If they fail to back him this season, book renewal will be an interesting watch. David Gillespie says the board are the ones who will destroy O'Neill's legacy. Shame on them. And Cheffy says Celtic are broken from top to bottom. The board are a shower of charlatans. And this one from, Rangers easy okay. I think we know where his allegiances lie. But he says, evening lads, it looks like two ambitious clubs in the league are trying to win the title and one run by dinosaurs whose dominance is coming to an end. Long may it continue. Can't really disagree with much of that, can you?
It goes back to what Mike was talking about. Yeah, Celtic have got structural command issues, which I don't know if there's any sort of appetite to change any of them. And if it doesn't change, it's hard to see where they go from here at the end of this season moving forward. There are serious problems now.
Yeah, as I say, listen, I know you like a good analogy, Jacko. But just listen, it happens. Empires rise and fall all the time. I mean, Celtic have had it their own way for 15 years or 20 years. Listen, at some point, there was a wee guy in the Roman Empire sitting in a hot bath with his glass of wine, and 50 years later, he's washing his pants down the stream again. It happens. It doesn't always go in a straight line. And at this point in time, unless Celtic call on...
That's just as funny as it was the first time now.
A few times over the years. But at some point, unless Celtic call in a Roman plumber to get this fixed, this is where they're heading. They're going to be washing their brakes down the stream soon.
The only thing I would say, Mick, though, is that you're spot on, but I think the thing that Celtic fans are struggling with is that they've got 80 million in the bank. And this is
they don't anymore. They don't anymore.
Oh,
they're burning through cash at a rate it's unheard of at Celtic. They're throwing good money after bad. So they're not at 77 million in the bank anymore. They did have 77 million in the bank. But they've wasted a big chunk of that ever since. So
they had to spend a fair bit getting Nonce in his team in and then getting Nonce in his team back out again.
Oh, there you are.
And Rodgers.
I mean, they didn't go overboard in the summer. I think they spent, 13 million quid in the summer. Having made, I think they made money on a few players like Kuhn and all that stuff. So they're well on credit in terms of the summer. Again, which is Celtic supporters were thinking, well, why? Why not just spend what you bring in? And this has happened over 2 or 3 windows, and the cash is going up. But they're now the rainy day fund that they talk about they brought the rain on themselves, really. They've turned the hose on themselves.
Yeah. Mick, it's always a pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you go and get your dinner.
No worries. Well, I'll go and wash my pants. I don't know what.
I'll wait for a bath and a glass
I
of
don't know what that was about. Sorry, boys, but you know what I mean.
Mick, I loved it, Mick.
It's been a very long day and I'm very hungry.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with the pants, and hopefully see you again soon.
Yeah, guys.
Cheers, Mick.
Cheers, mate.
Mick's brilliant, isn't he? He's good.
How do you follow that?
You've got that unenviable task, Scott, because while Celtic are struggling and, as people say, a shambles in the transfer market, Rangers, we are led to believe, are closing in on what could be, on paper at least, a statement signing.
I mean, there's a lot of positivity. Rangers-wise, no, Daniel, the exact opposite of everything that Mick's just described. It usually is that way with the old firm, isn't it? So, Skov Olsen, I mean, I think when this idea was first kind of floated, Rangers looked upon it as maybe a kind of long shot. I think they looked at the kind of figures that might be involved. They've clearly got a kind of list of wide players. Danny Rowe's looking for another wide player. There's several players on it, and I think probably Skov Olsen will be at the top or near the top. And they've went for it, and by all accounts, with talks kind of progressing and accelerating, as you say, in the last kind of 24, 48 hours, it now looks like they've got a real chance of getting this guy in on loan for 6 months, but not just that. They're actually they're trying to negotiate with Wolfsburg to get a deal done to buy him in the summer. And look, there's never any guarantees with players, as we know, but this one, given his pedigree and his kind of history and his profile, if they get this done, get it over the line, especially if they can tie him up in the summer, it would appear to be a kind of real statement of intent for Rangers for the rest of this season, certainly, because he's on his day he's a top player. I think 40 caps for Denmark, excellent with Bologna and Serie A, even better with Club Brugge in Belgium before getting that big move to Wolfsburg. I think it was 12 million quid. So now Rangers have been working hard on this. I think it's one that at the start, as I say, they maybe thought they couldn't pull off, but it looks as if they're making really good progress with it.
It's just what
sort of ballpark fee would they be looking at, Scott? I know it's how long's a piece of string, but if they are to make this deal a permanent one in the summer, how far are they going to have to push the boat out for him?
I mean, I think it would need to be a considerable fee, Jacko, but for everything that we've kind of heard today, or what we're hearing today, it'll be nowhere near the 12 million that Wolfsburg have paid. No, it'll be considerably less than that. So, I mean, in terms of a ballpark, I mean, I would think with that kind of information, I don't know what you talk, maybe 7 or 8 million, try and get them for that kind of fee.
Still a lot of money, isn't it?
Still a lot of money. But of course, if you're getting them for the 6 months and you think this guy is going to be, make a significant impact, and you go and win the title, you've got direct entry into the Champions League. So suddenly 7-8 million doesn't seem that much. So I think in terms of the loan fee, I mean, I think they've already agreed the loan fee, and again, it's probably not as much as Rangers kind of feared it might be. It looks as if that's kind of been negotiated. I think it's pretty clear now the player is quite keen on the move. So I think it's now just a case if they can get this negotiation done for the permanent deal in the summer, then it's got a good chance of happening.
Do you think Gassama's going to go the other way? Not necessarily Wolfsburg, but do you think that Rangers might offset the sort of money that they might need to find for Skov Olsen? Could they raise it by selling Gassama in this window?
It's interesting. If you'd asked me that a few weeks ago, Jack, would have probably said, no chance. I mean, why would you get rid of a guy that's just came in? He's made a decent impression. He's probably tailed off a wee bit, Gassama, compared to the start he made when he came in, scoring a few goals in Europe. But I think Gassama's still only 22. He's working with a guy, Danny Rowe, that obviously had him at Sheffield Wednesday. I think there's still development and improvement in him. So I said a few weeks ago, I don't think they would want to get rid of him. But when you see them being linked with so many wingers, he clearly wants wide players in. If there is interest, we're led to believe a few clubs in Europe, Villarreal being one of them, and MLS, which kind of emerged yesterday. If there are clubs kind of keen on Gassama, if Rangers could make a healthy profit on him, I think they signed him for roughly 2.2 million for Sheffield Wednesday. If, for instance, a club came in and they were talking 5 or 6, Danny Rowe might feel, or the club might feel as if that's a pretty good deal for somebody that just got in the summer, especially if the manager feels he can then go and get better players, with more of a maybe more kind of end product, if you like. So
I think Skov Olsen would be an upgrade, Scott. So see, for me, if I'm in charge of that, if I think I can turn a quick coin on Gassama and use some of that money to upgrade the position, I think that's how the business model should work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And Skov Olsen, he plays in the right, obviously left-footed, loves to cut in him. It feels like that kind of right wing position. Rangers have been struggling to fill that void for a long time, and I know it'd be a loan signing, but if they secure the deal for a permanent in the summer, then as you say, you would feel, again, the proof will be in the pudding. You need to see how he does when he comes, but you would feel as if that's a real top class signing for them in that position, which is one they've been looking to fill for, it feels like, for years. And as you say, I think they talk about player trading models, and Rangers haven't been that great at it in the past. Maybe this is the kind of start of it. We think of Gassama coming in the circumstances in the summer, as I say, just over 2 million. If you can make a big profit on it, and the manager feels that he can get better in, that's the way, in theory, it should work.
And we mentioned this in last night's show, Keith, but if and when Skov Olsen does become a Rangers player, Wolfsburg will have a space in the squad for a winger, and as Martin O'Neill let slip last week, they were after Dyson Maida in the summer. It could be a double blow for Celtic in the sense that Rangers got a top player in, and they could lose.
I think that might send people over the edge if that happens. That Celtic are prepared. So for that reason alone, although I caveat that by saying that the Celtic board will do what the Celtic board want to do, and they've proven that over the period. I don't think it would be wise for the Celtic board to facilitate a move which sees them lose Dyson Maida to Wolfsburg in order to free up Skov Olsen to go to Rangers. I don't see any set of circumstances where even the Celtic board would think that was a good idea.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Scott, a couple more comments are coming in on Rangers. Luke Skywalker says we need a leader at the back and a McCoy's type finisher, as if they're growing trees. Then 56 will be done and dusted. Is there any other whispers about any other positions that Rangers are looking to fill this month?
Well, I think they'll definitely be in the market for a striker, Daniel. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, look, we still expect the tour Romans deal to go through, but we thought that would probably be done the day. Not quite sure what the hold up is. We think the players already had a medical in London.
He's in Glasgow, isn't he?
Is that right?
I thought so. I believe so.
He knew the medical in London, as I say, by all accounts. I mean, even his manager at Westerlo, Issam Sharai, who obviously was at Rangers, and those comments came up from him yesterday about how he thought it'd be a great signing for Rangers. So it looks as if that's on the verge of being announced, which would solve a big problem for them at left back. We've spoke on here a lot about Jaden Magoma being left in the summer as the only kind of natural left back. I think he needs help. I think he's improved in the last couple of months, I must admit, and is actually developing into a decent player for Rangers. But again, Romans would feel like an upgrade, different type of player, more physical, more defensive, more powerful, Belgian under-21 international. So again, on paper, that would seem like a good addition for them. They've obviously got Chukwueze in already. If you add Skov Olsen to that, I think after that, Daniel, they probably would be looking at a striker. And it feels like strikers are always the hardest ones to get in. I mean, everybody wants strikers, don't they? Every manager seems to want. Exactly. So that maybe that might be a bit later in the window. I mean, Danny Rowe's already said in the last week or so that he obviously wants guys in early. He's hopefully going to manage to get that with a couple of them. But the last couple of transfer windows he's been involved in, he says in January, he has had to wait to pretty late on, the last day, if need be. That's not an ideal situation, but I think maybe when you get to the strikers, you might kind of need to wait to get the guy that you really want. But I don't think there's any doubt they'll want to bring in another centre forward. Shamiti he's obviously got better and he's impressed the last couple of weeks. Although I thought he missed a big chance at Pittodrie that he should have buried the other night. But Majowski and Danilo, aren't really bringing much to the party at the minute. And they'll just want another goal scorer. If you're going to be serious about going and pushing for this title, I think they need to get a goal scorer in. And I'd be amazed if that's no high on Danny Roll's wish list.
And then players going out as well. A lot of people in the comments asking about Joe Rothwell, Nedim Bajrami as well.
Yep.
There's a lot of players
actually. Softy Kelly.
Yeah, I know for a fact that Rangers they're actively speaking to clubs about trying to offload. You mentioned a couple, Bajrami, Rothwell are two of the big ones. Clinton and Ciala is another one that they'll look to try and offload.
Is that a goal with Motherwell for Ciala, Scott?
I'd heard that, but I don't know anything concrete on that, Jacko. I couldn't work out whether that's just people talking and putting two and two together with Stephen Welsh obviously going back to Celtic. Again, I mean, from the outside, it would seem like a kind of sensible move for Motherwell if that was the case. But I'm sure Askell will have his own ideas on who to go for. But certainly in Ciala, Rangers will be open to letting go. And you mentioned Finlay Curtis. I think him and Lyle Cameron, I think they're kind of, I was going to say surplus to requirements. That sounds harsh. I just think they're going to struggle for game time, and Rangers would want them out to try and play games. I think Curtis probably will end up going to Kelly. It would seem like a sensible one, given obviously who's just taking charge at Kelly, Neil McCann and Billy Dodds. And Cameron, whether he stays in Scotland, I'm not sure. But again, I would think that would probably be a loan move just to get him minutes. So, big changes at Rangers just in terms of the squad. But for the outside, it looks as if Danny Roll's got a kind of clear idea of what he wants and where he wants to go. Where this squad is gradually piecing it together.
Have you been surprised by the amount of activity, Scott? Because, I think when, we broke the story on Hotline Live about the American takeover, Andrew Kavanagh, way back in February. And I think Rangers fans, for a good part, and quite rightly so, because, once bitten, twice shy, we're kind of taking a step back and just going to monitor this situation, see where it goes. It didn't go particularly well. It was a disaster, in fact, over the summer. Some of the decisions that were made, some of the appointments that were made, and the mess that Rangers got themselves into. But am I right in thinking the Rangers fans are now looking at this January and being really impressed by the sort of dynamism and the ambition that's getting shown? I think it's taken. I'm a little bit surprised by it, the amount of money that the Rangers are being prepared to put into this. Even though I get it on the basis that speculate to accumulate, but it's still ambitious stuff. It's still, I think, from the Rangers' point of view, it's quite an exciting period of time. This.
I'm a wee bit surprised myself, Jacko. I mean, we think in the summer, I know they sold players, obviously, like Egerman and others, but I mean, I think the total spend was like 38 million quid, so which is quite a lot, probably more than we expected in the summer on players. You add to that in January already, roughly 4 million for Chukwuani, that's you up to over 40. Romans is going to cost them, the best part of 3 million, just over 3 million quid. Whatever they have to pay, obviously, this loan fee for Skov Olsen. And they were talking about maybe more coming in, a striker, potentially a centre back if they get a couple of guys out. So I'm slightly surprised, but I do wonder now. Well, two things. One, I think it helps when there's so much confidence now in this manager. And I know Danny Roll's he has achieved something. He's got Rangers back in a title race that seemed impossible a few months ago. But obviously he's not won it yet. He's no went and achieved it and like that yet. However, you have to say the signs are very good. No, the fans have really taken to this guy. It looks as if Danny Rowe, he's mentioned that a few times, seems to be a really tight relationship there between him and Andrew Kavanagh. They seem to speak most days. They seem to be on the same page. So I think that helps for the boardroom or for the owners when they've got so much confidence in the manager. But also, is Andrew Kavanagh now looking at this title race and thinking, this is up for grabs here. This is Champions League, direct entry, tens of millions of pounds. This is an unbelievable chance for us when it seemed like all was lost. So is he going into January thinking, right, let's push your boat out here, let's go for it? I think there has to be a wee bit of that. Judging by the players they've been linked with and the guys that they're going for and trying to bring in, I definitely think there's a bit of that for the owners, that they see an opportunity here that they probably didn't think would be here for a couple of years.
Just to clarify, Scott, I don't know if Rangers are guaranteed direct entry to the Champions League if they go to win this title. I think there might need to be a double six thrown somewhere along the line, because I think there's a couple of clubs that would need to fall out the pecking order in other countries. But Rangers at this minute in time would be the only Scottish club that with a chance of direct qualification.
Olympiacos, I think, and FC Copenhagen are the other ones kind of vying for this for the spot. But if I'm right, Rangers are kind of leading that at the moment. So it depends. I know it depends on kind of some European results and league positions or whatever, but it looks likely if Rangers were to win the league, then as you say, they'd be the only Scottish team that could go straight into the Champions League. And as I say, I think that's just an opportunity that the owners have decided we need to go and try and grab. You need to assume without going mad and kind of breaking the bank again, they'll try to get some players out in this window and recoup something. But certainly with the targets that they're going for, Skov Olsen being the prime example, it looks as if they're serious about trying to win this league.
Yeah. The other big transfer news, guys, that I need to get your take on before we wrap up, emanates from Tynecastle, Keith.
When Scott is talking about it there, about Andrew Kavanagh looking at this and thinking there's a real opportunity. Tony Bloom was always going to see this as a big opportunity for him, given the work that's been done in a short space of time, the progress being made under Derek McInnes. And we did say, didn't we, they will go for it. They will go for it big time in January. And I look, the news today, they have signed I think a 3-year contract with striker Rogers Mato, Ugandan player. Actually, I think he caught a few eyes and admiring glances during AFCON there. This boy has currently got 12 goals in 13 games for his club, sitting top of the league. I think my understanding is that I think Hearts originally tried to get him in this window for a transfer fee around about 300 grand. They've now agreed personal terms for him to come in the summer. Watch this space. I don't think there's any way that Tony Bloom won't push the boat out, find another couple of $100 grand somewhere, and get him in for the running. And there's again a team really gearing up for it. And it's so fascinating because tomorrow night, obviously, Hearts and Celtic both play.
Yep.
By the end of those games, we will know where the three teams are sitting after playing the same amount of games. And then you go on to fast forward to January 25th when Celtic go to Tynecastle, Rangers at home to Dundee, both 3 o'clock kickoffs on a Sunday. And as I said to you after the weekend there, Dan, you won't be able to take your eyes off this now between now and the end of the season. Every weekend is going to count. And Hearts are giving themselves, if they can get a deal done for this boy, it just adds more firepower to a team that hasn't had trouble scoring goals. What does that tell you about the size of their intent here and Tony Bloom's determination? And again, it's this boy, there's no scouting system in the world has picked this boy up. This is Jamestown and the analytics, isn't it? So it's just mouthwatering, the whole prospect.
You're right, Jacko. And the thing is about this signing, if Hearts do try and push a boat out to get him now, but even if they don't, it goes back to Mick's point, the contrast with Celtic.
What happens next season?
Tony Bloom's already, even if Hearts don't win the league, No, Tony Bloom obviously famously said no, he wanted to win it within 10 years. They're so forward thinking that they're already thinking about the next windows. I guarantee Hearts will already have players lined up for the summer window, and we'll be speaking to players in the summer window, irrespective of whether they really finish in this league. That's what Mick's talking about, strategy and organisation and forward planning, which obviously seems to be lacking at Parkhead. And just in terms of the title race, I think you're right, Jack. I mean, I was saying the day, speaking to Andy earlier on, I mean, it's going to be so exciting. See, we just think of the games. Obviously, you mentioned Hearts Celtic coming up next, but you think of Hearts Celtic, Rangers Hearts, the Edinburgh Derby, the Old Firm games. Every one of these games.
Everywhere you look. Aye.
Every one of these games now is going to be so fascinating, so exciting.
And do you know, and Mick was saying about Martin O'Neill, and I think this is where perhaps Celtic might have an advantage, even despite everything that's going on around the club, even despite the kind of feeling that there's a self-sabotage going on. They've got players inside that dressing room that have been forged in these situations, that understand what's required to get to the finishing line first in these high pressure, getting through one high pressure match after the next. Celtic have got that inside their dressing room. It's in their DNA. Rangers are going to have to find it for some place, and Hearts are going to prove that they're equipped for that too. But Celtic are the ones that have done the course and distance on that. So maybe the fact that there's going to be so much now on every single game that they play between now and the end of the season. I said, Scotty, it's like, we talk about a sprint finish. We're halfway through a marathon here. They've already started, the three of them. The race to the line is on. This is going to be a sprint for half a marathon. And it's going to be really intriguing to see who can deal with that. And a big part of that is as well, there will be injuries, there will be suspensions. Who's going to have the squad? And that's why I think you were on, Scott, when we said this title could very well be determined by who comes out of January in the strongest nick.
Yeah. And also I'm saying about the obviously Hearts, Rangers and Celtic, but as much as I don't quite think Motherwell and Hibs are there in terms of going and challenging for a title. Now, you watched their game at the weekend, obviously it was a really good game, and they're kind of current form. So the top three, Motherwell and Hibs are capable of taking points on for them on any given day. Do you know what I mean? So
when we do reach the split, it's a great point, Scott, because when we do reach the split, you're not going to have any game that you look at and say, well, that's 3 points.
How good's the post-split fixture's going to be? I mean, if it keeps going the way it's going, it could be the best. Certainly, I'm trying to think, off the top of my head, I can't remember where you would go into a post-split as excited as that about the games coming up in that top six. It could be incredible.
Can you imagine on the day last weekend in May, the 38th Premiership fixture, the helicopters loaded up with the trophy, and it's got 3 potential destinations? That would be pretty mad. Fingers crossed. I think for tonight, though, guys, that brings us to the end of Tuesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you for all the comments, and thank you to everyone watching at home. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Scott, Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Dan. Cheers, Scotty.
And thank you very much to Michael Gannon as well. Hope he's getting on. Hope he's getting on all right with his washing. We'll be back tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.
Conjure.